You mentioned that that people get caught up in linguistic conventions, and then you're saying that logically it doesn't follow. But isn't logic also a linguistic convention? I mean, does it approximate closer to reality than other linguistic conventions?
If you take logic in the traditional sense, especially in the sense of deductive logic, yes, it is based on linguistic conventions. It is also to speak a rationalization of linguistic conventions. I mean, for instance, that you say something like, give the classical example: Socrates is a man. Well, here you have your subject, Socrates, your predicate man, and the copula is. That's the traditional logical analysis. But there are some languages, which are not constructed in that sort of way. Especially, I believe, some African languages. In a sense, their experience of reality is different. So it has been argued by some that Western traditional logic represents a rationalization on the part of Aristotle of the structure of the Greek language. So yes, one can certainly say that. So if logic itself is not to be taken literally, what to say of the illogical? But we can just look at and analyze all sorts of statements that we ourselves make, and see that they cannot be taken literally. If they're taken literally, they don't, as it were, make sense. If we say, for instance, something like, the man is walking, well, do we really see, the walking separately from the man? We see the man. We really ought to join the two, the noun and the verb, and make one word, man walking. That's what we see. We see man walking. We don't see a man, separate, full stop. Walking, separate, full stop. Not that we see the man and then we see the walking. We see the two at the same time. We see man walking. But our linguistic structure has broken up those two things, at least in theory. We separate the man, from the walking. The man from the man's walking. But actually there is only, man walking. It's in the same way we say, the tree is green, but do we see the green separately from the tree? Do we first of all see the tree, and then we stick onto it, the concept or the percept of greenness? No, we see green tree, with one word, as it were. We see, for instance, the green tree waving in the breeze. No, but we don't really see it like that. We see, one might say, green tree breezing waving, or one word. Okay? Yes, that's our actual experience, where we split it up, for certain practical purposes of logical analysis, grammatical analysis, and so on. But then we start thinking, well, actually, in reality, the tree and the greenness. The fact that the branches are waving in the wind are all different things, which we then proceed to stick together, or to join together. So then we need something with which to stick them together or join them together. So then we posit, some sort of entity standing behind them, holding them all together, which constitutes the essence of that particular object, and that is what we call the Atman. So. You see what I mean? Or the Swabhava, the owner being, which according to Buddhism at least is purely fictitious. So yes, the study of language is quite interesting. So you can perhaps begin to see why I prefer to at least try to use language poetically rather than, as it were, scientifically or logically. I think we can say that our experience of reality is conditioned by our language, in as much as our language originally was conditioned by our experience of reality. Yeah? There is an Indian school of, as it were, linguistic philosophy, we might say, which reduces all the words of the Sanskrit language to a very limited number. I think it's about 120 verbal roots, which represent absolutely basic aspects of man's total experience of the universe. I think the study of words in that sense, tracing them back and back, to deeper and deeper meanings, and therefore more and more basic perceptions of the universe is quite interesting. And in modern times, a philosopher who's given or devoted quite a lot of attention to this aspect of the question is Heidegger, especially in connection with the Greek language and Greek philosophy and German poetry. But he's quite difficult. He's very interesting because he's very, very acutely aware of the fact that our perception of reality is affected by the language we use, and he tries to use, sometimes it seems, language in such a way that you're not misled by it. But it's a very, very great effort to use language in such a way that you're not misled by the assumptions on which that language apparently rests. I think it can really be done in the end only by poetry, by a poetical use of language. I think if you use language in any other way, you can have some idea of what you shouldn't be doing, or what language isn't communicating, but not much idea of what you should be doing, or what language is communicating, or is able to communicate, or capable of communicating. So a lot of the questions that people ask are actually quite artificial questions. I mean, this is one of the virtues of the modern analytical philosophy, that it does show that many even traditional problems of philosophy are simply based on linguistic confusion, semantic confusion, misunderstanding.